Hi, Dave Rolls here, Widnes Vikings. Been an absolutely heartwarming weekend down at the club. Been mad busy, everybody pulling out all the stops. We've been visited by past players, sending messages, sending old memorabilia down to help raise funds for the club. This morning, just before he pops off to his office job, I'm joined by none other than David Hulme. Dave, brilliant to see you, mate, this morning.
No problems.
Thanks very much for coming in this morning, just to have a chat and share a little bit of your time at the club and also the current plight the club's in. Where I'd like to start, over the last couple of years have been quite challenging, to say the least. And I know you still live locally, and a man that's respected throughout the community. I'd like to say that without embarrassing you. What's been your feeling about the club's recent plight?
It's so disappointing. Obviously, the relegation get down into the Championship was a bitter blow for the club, and it was just a spiral. I think there was a continuation of negativity throughout the town, and obviously the spectators as well. That affected them, and it affects past players as well. The last thing you want to see is a past player.
Especially if you live it.
Well, you live in the town, you listen to all the negativity, and it gets you down a little bit. But I do think you're correct in what you say in that in the last few days. It's been fantastic, the response you've had of people in the club. I know I've been talking to the people involved, and it's fantastic the amount of money that's been raised, but not just the money raised. I think it's all the goodwill gestures that people are coming forward from out the rugby world, people in Australia, New Zealand, stuff like that. So I think it's good to know that I think that Widnes bond, being together a little bit, it's come back a little bit, which I didn't think we had for many a year, and it's really good. It's a bit similar to when I was playing, luckily enough, at Widnes early, the late 80s, etc., and where the club was everything. It was the most important function of the club, to be part of the town, and everybody was a group. So it was really important. So it's been nice to see some positive news.
Yeah, it's been pleasant. And
it's been
genuinely been heartwarming. Just a little bit about your. Played over 400 games for the club, made 8 international appearances, none more so famous than you were playing at 6 with your kid, masquerading at 9 in the famous third Test victory against the Aussies over there. So you've had many highlights. Man of the match in the World Club, the World Club Champions victory over Camaraderie. You've had many highlights. What I'd like to ask you, what of all them highlights you've had, just give us one moment in time that Dave Hulme, the 55-year-old man now, grey beard, when you look back and tell your kids and the grandkids, and they'll ask you this question, what's the moment that's most meaningful to you?
It's quite an easy one, to be honest with you, which probably may surprise a few people, but for me it was national debut. I was brought up, I went to Wembley in 75, looking up, I actually played at Wembley in 75.
Good team.
Very good team, but to be honest with you, I was growing up in the great era of the 70s, and Reggie Bowden, Eric Hughes, Malaspy, Mick George, all that, Mick Adams. So it was just a fantastic time, and people sometimes forget. People talk about my team as being, the team that we were the 89 World Cup champions, but credit goes to that team, but they were a fantastic team in the 70s, wonderful teams. You know what they achieved in 79. It's understated in a lot of respect.
Very much
so to be able to actually play with them when I was 16 years of age, my debut, to play against St Helens in a Lancashire Cup derby as such.
That page is really new.
It was that page, it was a pretty I had a little bit more of a chunkier face then, though, as well.
You did.
I did. It was a bit more chunky. I was only 16. But having that opportunity to play for your own town club, having supported them, come through it wasn't the academy then, but there was a system in place. They used to do a summer school, be involved with the summer school, and then playing in that game. It's good. It's good.
He would have.
To be honest with you,
he didn't really mean that. He was frightened.
But basically, that to me stands out more than anything, really.
As I say, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable experience. It just everything, the occasion. I know my mates who are still my mates now, good friends now.
Yeah, they are.
they were at the game.
Yeah.
You know, they were
Maybe
cheering
the
me on.
cowshed.
It was they'd be in the couch cheering me on. You know, just to know that, but just to be playing with such wonderful players, which I did all my career.
Yeah.
It's just a fantastic. That by far.
Yeah.
Up there on the pedestal.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, unbelievable. And the fact, just give us an idea for. It's unbelievable to think, because people say like the game then, and it was. You know, I was a spectator to the game then, and it seemed quite brutal at times, and you know, you were up against like real big men, big aggressive men that were playing to win.
I mean,
desperate to get winning.
Yeah, these people. I'm always a big fan of like past players not being negative about the current game, because I think any sport, it evolves over the years, and it changes its format. The rules have changed slightly, so it has an impact on the way the game is played. And I enjoy watching the game today. And I don't want to get into this thing about when I played and all this, but I still think it's important that at the time it's also dependent on the players around you, what you can produce, and the kind of football that you can produce. And we were very fortunate that Dougie, in his wisdom, put together a fantastic team with flair and huge attacking ability. And that was what the game, that's what a lot of people, supporters from that generation remember, was the attacking style of football. And it was certainly wasn't boring. As for the brutality, without a doubt, it was, you know, the way the game's changed now, you couldn't get away with it. I mean, our Paul couldn't play rugby league now. He'd have been signed high by now. So, but in them days, it was different, you know, and it was part of it. And a lot of the players, you know, there's a lot of players get so much credit. Jonathan Day, rightly so. Jonathan Davis, Martin Fire, Kurt Sorensen, but there was a lot of those brutal players in the engine room, the O'Neills, our kid, you know, them type of players.
Bit of muscle,
bit of aggression, but the psychology of the sport as well. You know, to know when to intimidate and stuff like the players, and that was an essential part of the sport at that time. And they were like more than crucial to the success of the club.
Just let's just stick on that debut. Who was it? What sort of? Did you play 7 that day, or did you come off the bench?
I come off the bench, but I was virtually for most of the game. It was quite. I think I was on after about 20 minutes into the first.
Did they say it's like, because in them days the loose forward used to try and get a grip in the scrum half,
I had more problem with the scrum halves in them days. I played against Neil Olding that day. And he took advantage and gave me a right whack.
Oh, did he now?
But I got it back. I got it back in. I like to say with Neil, he's a friend. I like to say that I got him back in the, you know, as well in the years to come. But no, it was brutal. I mean, Arnie Walker played for Whitehaven. I was 17.
Workington, I think it was.
It was Workington and Whitehaven, and I played on a Wednesday night match when I was 17 up there, and he tried to gouge my eyes out in a scrum. So the scrum halves were worse than the loose forwards in them days. And then we had our own Widnes legend, Reggie Bowden. And
he wasn't adverse to a bit of the
Reggie was
the rough stuff.
You know, I've got a lot of time for Reggie, because he gave me a lot of good advice over the years, and it was one of them. Reggie is when you one of the tips that he gave. I think he gave it to Al Paul in particular, was that first scrum, when you throw the ball in, let the scrum half go down for the ball, and then pile in with your knees. which really nowadays I'm probably be X-rated now, this video. But you know, people like that, the characters of the game, and that's what we're trying to get back at the club now.
Certainly a larger than life.
Certainly, absolutely,
without any shadow of a doubt. Any particular player from that? But you know, it's like starting a new job, isn't it? Like starting a new job. Who was the player that like recognised he's only a bit of a kid, this fella, and he sort of looked after you and made sure you felt comfortable?
I think
anyone that played that role.
I think they all did. I mean, it was quite an intimidating thing when you went into that changing rooms, because it was a sacrilege thing between the first team changing room and the second team changing rooms. And to walk through there to get a towel, you know, it was very intimidating for a guy who was 24, 23, who hadn't been playing in the first team, for somebody, for a 16-year-old. You know, they all looked after you collectively. Mick Adams was Mick was great. You know, Mick kind of took you under his wing. He was also particularly ruthless, taking the mickey as well.
I believe so.
So you certainly got a thick skin, and early days. That's what you're there for, and it kind of carries on, rolls in downhill as I got older.
Exactly. One day you were the eldest.
So having that camaraderie and that crack within the environment, that's what any rugby league player, whether it be professional, amateur, will tell you. That's the most important thing, because once you finish playing, you're not just finishing playing from the activity of the sport. You finish playing from having that little bit of camaraderie and the crack and the fun The fun of the game is the most important.
Enjoying the journey.
Enjoying
it's
it,
a
yeah,
massive
absolutely.
factor. Make sure you enjoy the journey. One thing I'd like to ask you, what message would you give? You were no different than me. You're a Widnes lad, born and bred, proud of where you're from, I'm sure, Dave, and all your family is. What message would you give to our fans and sponsors at this moment in time?
I think it's certainly a very stressful time for everybody, and it's a very important time for the club.
Yeah.
And it's a very important time for the town as well, because the club is probably the most fundamental thing that I believe to this town of Widnes. It sets up Widnes for me. As far as you go anywhere in the world and you mention you're from Widnes, 9 times out of 10 a person will say it's the rugby league team, the Wembley, the Wembley runs, etc. So I think for me it's important that people get behind in whatever capacity. If it's £1, if it's a £5, it doesn't matter about the value, whatever someone gives. It's just being part of this community again and just giving a little bit. So it's a kind of thing. Well, I'll do that. I've got to put it off. People have to react now. It's as simple as that, and because of the situation, the dire straits that we're in. And I would say to people who are a bit probably concerned, it's a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. If enough people get involved, who can save this club. But not just save the club, the most important thing is to try and put it on a better footing than what it's been on before. Yeah. I know the VIQI system with the membership there, where people put away a small, any amount, £15 a month, that is absolutely vital. The amount of people that you can attract with that will sustain the club through this difficult period and then beyond, and trying to grow the club. And I think what you said before about this impetus that everyone's got now with all the people getting involved that normally wouldn't go to the games and stuff, that I'm not worried if they don't go to the games. I just want them to support the club. If they support the club, as we're trying to do now, and get as many members as possible, it's only going to be for the betterment of the town.
100%, mate. It's a mechanism for people who sometimes can't even get to the game.
I would
but
also
they have a feeling for the club.
I'd also say as well, I think the business world, I know the business world faces difficulties with Brexit and the difficulty with its instability of the economy as well. But I think the business community within Widnes, they prosper from the people who live in this town and the people who they employ are Widnesians. So I think it's important for them, for any kind of help in any way, shape or form that they can give to the club. That's when they need to come forward instead of sat in their offices.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Dave, on behalf of everyone at the club, it's been an absolute pleasure to see you, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, mate.